This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek, and one of the critical issues that we have been covering is the whole role of AI, robotics, and generative AI for working people and the people of the world. And joining us today is Adrienne Williams. She's with Distributed AI Research Institute, and she has been active not just with this institute, but previously at Amazon, where she worked as a single mother and struggled to defend herself and other workers. Welcome to our show, Adrienne.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Adrian, why don't you first talk about how you got into the issue of technology and AI?
I took such a non-traditional path. It was never my goal to be like doing what I'm doing now. I'm very happy I'm doing it. My degree is in graphic design. And I mean, that was one of the first jobs that I felt really was in danger as this technology started going, at least creative jobs. And by 2014, I was training my replacement in the Philippines at my job. So um, I had to leave that career and I went to be a teacher for a while at a CZI, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative charter school, not understanding the charter school system, not understanding the tech that was involved, and very quickly started to realize, like, oh, wait, they're not even teaching my kids. The kids are just kind of a byproduct of this online learning platform that they've created. So I started, just trying to organize parents, teachers, other staff and admin from other Summit public schools, because there's 11 of them. And it got to be too stressful, just too much. Again, like you said, I was a single mom. At the time, my daughter was in kindergarten, and it was too stressful because of the pushback from the school. So I stopped working there. And then again, just not knowing, I was like, my bright idea is I'm going to go drive for Amazon. It's a solo gig. I can get my head together. I can figure out a next step. And just immediately I started noticing kind of the same. You would think of these as being two completely different opposite ends of the spectrum kind of industries, education and Amazon, commercial delivery and stuff like that. But I started noticing the same things, like the over surveillance of everyone involved, the complete just dismissing of health and safety laws, the wage theft, things like that, that I was noticing at the school. I started noticing at Amazon. So before the pandemic, I was working at Amazon and I started kind of lightly organizing. You know how you start, you just like asking those questions and having people talk about, oh, don't you think we should get paid more? Don't you think that this is unsafe? That kind of stuff. And then the pandemic hit and everything went into overdrive. And so because of that, I was organizing then. And honestly, it was just this organic thing where like my organizing led me to meet this person or that person. And I went on a panel one day with Timnit Gebru, who was a former Google employee who was fired for basically calling out the ethics or the unethical behavior of the algorithms at Google. And Alex Hanna, who is now my research director. And that's how I met them. And that's how I have the job I have now. So it was very organic, but it was totally not what I had expected my life to be.
So, you had this experience during COVID, and the conditions at Amazon were pretty horrendous for a lot of workers. Maybe you can talk about that and the speed ups, the situation that drivers are under and workers are under at Amazon.
Yeah, it's weird because when I first started working at Amazon, it really wasn't that bad. Um, I used to wear this little Samsung watch because I wanted to just track, like, I wonder how many steps I get every day. And I got about 5,000 to 6,500 steps a day. But then when COVID hit, that doubled. And I was getting between 10,000 and 11,000 steps a day. And it's like, okay, so your route has doubled. There's still an expectation that you're going to get it done in the same amount of time. So you have some workers that have 8-hour shifts, some have 10, some have 12. However, it doubled for them, there's still the expectation that you're going to get it done in 8, 10, 12 hours. That's when I really started noticing and hearing things about, like, well, I can't go to the bathroom. I'm not eating lunch. I'm not taking breaks. That was when COVID hit and the pandemic, people needed stuff and they were bored, and I get it. But there was this kind of attitude that was like, well, we don't really care if there's a pandemic, right? We're not going to make sure you have masks. We're not going to clean the vans. We're not going to put any kind of PSAs out for customers to say, like, hey, let's keep our drivers safe. Um, and then when there would be cases, they would tell the DSP owners that, so Amazon drivers aren't technically Amazon employees, they work for small business owners. Amazon would tell those small business owners to keep that information from us. Don't tell them that there's cases in your DSP. Don't tell them there's cases at the warehouse. And so, that became unsustainable as people have other lives. They have little kids, they have older parents and family members, and it became really dangerous to work for that kind of job.
And there was organizing that was going on there, and Amazon apparently spent a lot of money and effort to shut it down.
Yeah, my particular warehouse, I there were little pockets of individuals, and Amazon shut it down quick. Even with me, it was very quickly like they were on me like white on rice. So things that I used to be able to do, like going to the break room, now, oh no, you're not an employee, you can't go in the break room. But that was never a thing before I started organizing. There was targeting, I feel, of my actual DSP boss, of my actual boss, because they would send him things like, hey, she's up to stuff, handle this, fix this, shut her down. And my boss was kind of like, she's a grown person, she can do what she wants. I feel a little guilty. I feel like, and I know he would never say this, but I feel like I'm partially responsible for why he no longer has a DSP. Because the expectation from Amazon is that your workers are not going to organize, your workers are not going to unionize, they're going to fall in line or you're going to fire them. And any boss that doesn't, kind of toe that line, they'll pull their contract.
And it's illegal, but they seem to get away with violating the law,
Yep.
above the
Yep.
law.
They are above the law. There's so many things that are illegal. I mean, they were just blatantly hiring intelligence analysts to go after and target organizers. They put that out in like a Indeed, Indeed job search. So they know nobody is gonna stop them, and so they shut it down. They wanted to find, um, dirt on organizers so they could get restraining orders, so that they could find ways to either get them arrested or have them so scared that they would just stop organizing and shut their mouths. All that union busting stuff is illegal.
And you began to study the role of technology, AI, and confront this technology and how it was going to be used for people and the use of it discriminating against people and targeting people. What did you learn in grappling with this technology and what it means to the working class and people at large?
I think the most shocking thing that I learned, because I didn't know about any of this until I started getting a little sense of it when I was working at the school. But when I started working at Dare, what I started realizing is there's this whole system that we don't realize is happening because AI only works if it's trained, right? And it needs all these data points. So every single thing we do online, that's data given to them. But for a worker, and I'll give you the example of Amazon delivery drivers, is like, people or companies are very excited about autonomous vehicles. Amazon drivers have those artificial intelligence cameras, those Netrodyne cameras on the inside and outside of their vans. And the inside of the vans gets a lot of attention, rightfully so, because it's invasive and the drivers feel a certain way about it. And it doesn't even help really, but it's just such an invasion of privacy. But the cameras on the outside of the van are, to me, just so crazy because what it's doing is collecting road data. It's collecting millions and millions and millions of miles of road data. And now you have car companies that partner with the companies collecting this road data so they can get it for free so that they can create their autonomous vehicles. Now, if you go to our own Homeland Security website, they talk about forced labor. And they talk about it in three different ways. And the first two ways are, what you think of. It's like, hey, I was walking down the street, somebody kidnapped me, and now I'm making garments in this factory, and I don't want to be here. Forced labor. Or I went on a job interview, and they locked the door, and I can't get out, and now I'm working for them. Forced labor. But there's a third one called forced labor by way of fraud that says if I have job A, and I'm making, $20 an hour for job A, but there's this invisible job B that's bringing in a revenue for a company, that is forced labor by way of fraud, and that's illegal. And that's exactly what's happening with the Amazon delivery drivers. Some of them sign consent forms. A lot of them that I've interviewed don't. But what's happening is it is a job. I mean, you can look at Waymo. They hire people as surveyors to run around town and survey and get road data. That's a job. But the Amazon delivery drivers are doing it for free. And so I wrote an op-ed in Newsweek about the idea of zombie trainers. And it's basically just workers or just individuals who are doing a job, training artificial intelligence. They have no idea that they're doing it. They have no idea what it's for. They have no idea the harm it might bring them or the community. And so that's what they're turning all of us into. So workers, yes, but pretty much all of us are doing it. School children, prisoners, refugees, low wage workers are all behaving as zombie trainers and don't realize it and should be getting paid a lot more.
And of course, they don't want people to know what's going on as they introduce this technology. There's no control of this technology. And the
Yep.
development of AI, they want to regulate it themselves. What does that mean, Sam Altman and Musk and these companies regulating Altman? I mean, they don't really want any regulation. Their ideology is that. Why don't you talk about this regulation and the lack of it in the United States and internationally?
Yeah, there is a huge lack of it. Well, Sam Altman went on like a world tour to all the, governments that were going to bring this technology into their fold and basically were feeding it's just all snake oil, like this idea that AI is going to be so powerful that it's going to be your best friend and your teacher and your therapist and all these things. That's a false narrative. It can't do that. AI does not think, it does not learn, it doesn't feel, it has no empathy, it has no nuance. But they're selling this dream that it's going to be able to do all these things. And these governments are eating it up. And the thing is that data is the money. The data is the money. And so that's why they don't want any regulations. Because if you start regulating it, then all of a sudden they don't have free reign and free access to everyone's data. That's the real pressure point right now is we don't want people to understand that the data is money. We don't want them to start wanting to own their own data or transparency around how their data is used. So if we can get these governments to just say, it doesn't even matter, we just need it so bad. That's how the governments are right now. We just need it so bad. We can't let this government be above us. So we just have to let them do whatever they want because otherwise another government will get there first. There's nothing to get to. There's nothing to get to.
And one of the logics of the development of AI is to eliminate workers and to have this technology eliminate workers. Yet, doesn't capitalism rely on workers to buy products?
That's the thing that never made sense to me. And I want to tell you what's scary to me about that whole thing is that, for one, there are certain jobs that automation can probably replace. That's not artificial intelligence necessarily, it's just automation. But the scary part to me is that one, they want to replace care work. So teachers, nurses, therapists, things like that. Because AI cannot care, it's very dangerous to replace care work with artificial intelligence. It will fail every time. But the other part of it, because they are so like stuck on getting rid of all the workers, is you're starting to hear people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Bill Gates double double back on this idea of universal basic income, which at first sounds like this great idea, right? I mean, back when Martin Luther King was championing universal basic income, it was to subsidize a low wage job. What they're trying to do is say, we want to make sure we get for universal basic income because there won't be a job. That's a level of corporate control we've never seen, where essentially they're going to be doling us out an allowance and there won't be any work. And then think about that in terms of people fighting back. Like, if we fight back and no one has a job and no one, makes their own money, then they can cut that money off whenever they want to keep us at bay. That part is what I think scares me the most as I hear them more and more talk about universal basic income, because it means what they want to do is control everything.
And this ideology of the techno fascist want to go to Mars, they want to go out of this world. And what is the ideology of techno fascism, and what is the relationship of the ideology techno fascism to AI?
Well, so I won't say I'm an expert in this set part of it, but what I will say is it seems to me to be based in eugenics. it seems to me to be based in this idea of like white men, white society is really all that's important. And, you know, everyone else can go suck it, basically. And that's just not our society anymore. It's not. I do know it's based in eugenics. I do know that it's this like rich white men are the only thing that matters. And everybody else is just a battery charging our system.
And of course, President Trump has shut down the border to black and brown people, poor people, but apparently he's opened up the border to Afrikaners to come to the
White South
United States.
Africans.
And
Because did you hear there's a white genocide in South Africa? That's what they say.
so that kind of ideology is a racist ideology, is a fascist ideology. So some of these
Mm-hmm.
so-called refugees from genocide are anti-Semitic and they have racist sites. So this ideology seems to be, on the face of it, a dangerous ideology, a fascist ideology for the people of the United States.
Absolutely. And you know, it was happening before they were so blatant about it because the technology itself, facial recognition, the technology itself only recognized white faces for the most part. The darker and the more male your face became, the less accurate facial recognition was. So when you talk about the border, you have a app that our own government was making refugees and immigrants use to get in line for just a meeting, just an immunity, or not immunity. What's the word I'm thinking of? Oh God, I lose words. But basically, to get in line to legally cross the border, you had to get on this app. And the app made you scan your face to do it. And you've got these poor people who are like, we have to basically set up a photo shoot because we're darker skinned and it says we're not even there. It just says no one's there. Put yourself in the picture. They're like, we are. No, no one's there. And so you have like Ukrainians coming and they're bam, front of the line. But you have South Americans who many are very dark, and you have Haitians who are dark, and they can't even get a spot in line because the technology won't even recognize that they're human beings. So it was already happening without us knowing it. Now it's just very blatantly racist because they don't care.
And is this the logic of this technology? I mean, to be used really to uh, support a regime, a government that is a racist government that is openly, blatantly going to discriminate against people. Go back to the good old days, as they call it. That's
Yeah. I don't think that's how the technology started. I think, Silicon Valley is this weird place where it's like always magical thinking, right? And so I think it started as this like, oh my God, facial recognition, think of all the things we can do. But then as it started working and it started working in a way that was like, oh shoot, we didn't think about it. We only trained it on white male faces. We didn't recognize that here's all the problems it's bringing. I think the fascism and the racism comes in when these things are brought to their attention and they were like, yeah, we don't care.
and algorithms. How does that connect with basically a racist ideology as far as the use of algorithms?
Well, I mean, you have to think about how AI is trained, right? So it's really just trained on scraping as much data, as much information from the internet. And it's easy for us to think because we live in the US that, like, oh, everyone's on the internet, but everyone is not on the internet. So the snapshot that is given to training AI is a very westernized snapshot. It's a kind of first world. I know that's not that. There's a sense that, like, again, that we're all on the internet and we're not. And so just what's training the algorithms is a very westernized idea of the world. It doesn't fit with a lot of other countries and what they're doing. They also aren't like considering translation, right? They're not considering content moderation. So the plight of content moderators is a whole nother horrific issue, but content moderation is basically for us. It's not for the rest of the world. So when you come here, you've had people in Kenya and Syria and Yemen who have taken all of the horrific things that go online and taking it out. So all the murders, all the child abuse, all the hate speech, all the genocide that they don't want us to see, that's a person that sat there and watched those videos and took it out. So for us, our internet is pretty tame and digestible. But if you go to other countries, the internet might as well be 4chan because it's everything all the time, everywhere. It has aided in genocides, multiple. I know in Eritrea, it helped with that genocide. And part of it is because of translation, right? So Silicon Valley out here, they don't have people translating all of those African languages. So they just put everything out there without anybody checking to see, like, oh, actually, this is calling for the murder of an entire people. They don't care.
It seems like this basically oligarchy, wealthiest people in the world, now have state power, and they're able to organize the state to implement their ideology and their agenda. David Sachs, who's a South African billionaire who worked with Musk, and Larry Ellison of Oracle. I mean, these billionaires want a different kind of world. And do you think people are waking up to the threat of AI? Because even though there have been some strikes, there was a strike of the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA, and they called it an existential struggle. There still seems to be a lack of really education and also the real threat. I mean, in California, as you know, autonomous vehicles are operating in San Francisco. They want to expand them statewide. Governor Newsom has vetoed twice a bill to require a driver in trucks that over 10,000 pounds. They want to get rid of truck drivers. They want to get rid of drivers. Millions of workers depend on this work to do. And yet it seems they're moving ahead without any real organized opposition. And their attitude is, we can just do what we want.
Yeah. Well, they already have the driverless trucks, the semi trucks in Texas. They just rolled those out a couple of weeks ago, which is terrifying to me because that is a huge vehicle. And you don't know where the algorithm has a hole until it shows you. So it's like you don't know where the truck is going to barrel through until it barrels through. And then you're like, oh, we didn't know that. I personally feel like the politicians have been almost intentionally, like they're allowing, it's willful brainwashing. They only speak to the tech bros. They only speak to the billionaires. It's not like people aren't trying to talk to them. It's not like our organization is, people know about our organization. These politicians know about our organization. They don't want to hear from the scientists and the researchers and the activists and the people on the ground that say, hey, we absolutely know what the harms are and problems have solutions. They don't want to hear it. They have like closed their ears to any opposition because they see money and they think that they're going to bring in all this money to them. And so they only listen to Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley is selling them a bag of lies. It's the equivalent to when the oil companies were doing all the research and they were then giving it to the government, and the government didn't look at any other research but what Exxon and Chevron gave them. Same with the tobacco companies. People knew way before the government wanted to admit that these products were making people sick, not just the person smoking, but the people in the house with them. They knew that, but they were listening to the research of the tobacco companies and not the research from the scientists. And I feel like it's the same movie played again. I don't know when they're going to learn. I think that the problem they're going to have is the same problem they had during COVID, is that if you take an entire population of people and give them nothing to do, and then they're going to sit at home and research and watch TV and watch TikTok and watch all these things and start realizing what's going on, they got nothing but time and they're pissed off. So I think it's a bad model for them because you're going to have all these people that have nothing to do but riot and protest.
And the organization of workers at Amazon, at Walmart, it seems that now with the destruction of NLRB, destruction of all these government organizations. I mean, OSHA, we don't need OSHA, regulate yourselves. We don't need scientists. I mean, it seems like it's a nihilist kind of destruction of anything, even the facade that we have a democratic society where people's lives and their families are protected. It's gone out the window, it seems.
Yeah, it does seem. And I can't really wrap my head. Like sometimes it makes sense, even if it's evil, it makes sense because I'm like, I can see the money trail for that. But this thing they're doing now, where they're just kind of destroying everything, doesn't even seem to make sense in terms of making money because, like, who's going to buy the products, like you just said? Who's going to make sure it's quality, that it's not going to kill you? Who's going to make sure that, like, I don't know, there's a million things that it doesn't make good sense to annihilate all of these like checks and balances because it's going to ruin their life too at some point.
Well, the National Transportation Board, which is supposed to be doing studies on autonomous vehicles, has
Mm-hmm.
been captured by Musk. He eliminated the scientists, the researchers who are studying this effect. So they're basically apparently saying, let it rip. We don't
Yep.
care. And also, you can have accidents, you can kill people
Yep.
using your autonomous vehicles, and we're not going to require you to report it. You're going to be allowed to get away with this kind of blatant violation of people's lives and society, the protection of society. Do you feel the
Yep.
same way?
Yeah, I do feel the same way. And I feel like I want them to go read about like the French Revolution or something because it's like, people are only going to let you do this for so long before they're just going to start just climbing over your fence. You cannot, there's more of us than there are of them. And yes, you have power. Yes, you can hire, hired guns. But at some point, when the whole 99% is pissed off, there will be nothing you can do. And they're going to come for your head. I hope you can
And
get to Mars then.
he better get off early if he wants to
Man,
take that trip.
for
A one-way
real.
ticket, as we're saying.
I'd be
Early.
happy with that.
Good. So how can people get in touch with you and your institute?
So it's the Distributed AI Research Institute, or DARE, DAIR. We're at dare-institute.org. You can contact us there. Surveillance Watch is one of them. That's a really cool organization that's showing like who's surveilling, where they're surveilling, how their surveillance is working, what it's doing to people. That's something that people need to be aware of.
And the wars that they're using this technology, the genocide in Palestine. I mean,
Push back on that. Microsoft is absolutely helping Israel destroy Gaza. Amazon is helping them build weapons. Elon Musk is helping with the technology. Most of these tech companies have their hands in weapons and war. And so I think they try to hide it, but we need to be doing our own research too. And I hate to give people more work to do because I know people are exhausted. But if they're going to use these kind of weapons at the other end of the world, at some point, it's going to get to us too. So never think that it's like, oh, it's just them over there. It's all us. There is no us and them. Everything is us. And if they'll use it over there, it's going to come to our front door at some point. So we need to be upset even when it's not our families, our friends, and people that look like us.
well, thank you for joining us. And we've been talking with Adrienne Williams, and she has been studying this and actually experienced it in her work life at Amazon and as a teacher. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.